I'm John Hodge. He's JC Abbott. Welcome to our Canadian Football League picks for week 4. I'm ready to go, JC. I'm coming off a 3-1 week straight up and against the spread, but I have to give credit where credit's due, my friend. You were a perfect 4-0 in week 3. So we bow to you. We take our hats off. I'm actually not going to take my hat off. Canada, I got to rep our nation right now. But I do want to say a sincere congratulations. 4-0, not easy to do.
I do believe there was scoffing, maybe even laughter, when I picked the Edmonton Elks to beat the Montreal Alouettes, but I feel vindicated right now. I feel an air of superiority. Some around me would say that I generally feel that, but I feel it more than most times right now.
I will say I was on the fence with that Alouettes Elks game, and if I had known that Tyrese Beverette was not going to play, who I believe is a top 5 player in the CFL, period, certainly a top 5 defensive player, I might have gone with the home side. It did come down to a coin flip, really, with that overtime. I mean, the Calgary Saskatchewan game was also a kind of a coin flip with their overtime in that contest. But regardless, it's challenging to pick CFL games these days because aside from one team, we'll get into that. It really feels like any team can win any game, and going 4-0, not easy to do. So well done. Best of luck for you doing. I'm not going to say 4-0 because I want to catch you. So I'm wishing you the best to go 3-1 this week. I'll go 4-0, and then we'll be tied up for the season. Let's get into game number 1.
The Edmonton Elks will visit the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on Thursday night, where the Blue and Gold are 2.5-point home favorites, despite the visitors being 2-0 for the first time since 2019. Cody Fajardo and Justin Rankin ran over the Montreal Alouettes this past week in overtime, while the Blue Bombers were on a bye, licking their wounds from a home loss to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Former All-CFL linebacker Nick Anderson will not play for Edmonton due to a hamstring injury, with Brock Mogensen set to start in his place. Can the Elks improve to 3-0, or will Winnipeg get back in the win column?
Have to roll with the Bombers here. And before people call me an Elks hater, I did pick Edmonton to win in week 1, which they did. So I'm nothing against the Elks. I think they're a good team. I really think they're for real. We talked about that on our podcast with Justin Dunk on Monday. But look, they're on a short week this week. They played Saturday. Well, now they got to fly 2 provinces over to play on Thursday night. They are banged up. You mentioned Brock Mogensen. They lost their excellent long snapper in Luke Burton-Cron. They've also suffered a couple of, their 6-game injury list. They've got like a dozen guys on it. Whereas Winnipeg was on bye last week. They're fresh. They're relatively healthy. Drew Brown, for those wondering, will not suit up for this game. It's going to be the same 3 quarterbacks Winnipeg has had through the first 2 games, though I suspect Brown will be the primary backup after this game moving forward into week 5 and beyond. But we all know how big of an advantage it is to be on the bye when your opponent is coming off a short week. And we know the Princess Auto Stadium provides this Blue Bombers team a massive advantage. No, it didn't help them a lot in week 2. Yes, the Tiger Cats, it was a full value win. They came in, smashed Winnipeg's defense, got a 37-27 point win. So obviously it can be done. That said, Winnipeg has only lost 8 regular season games at home since 2021. They have in that time, I looked it up, in 24, they did lose 2 back-to-back games, so it's not impossible that they lose this one. I think the Elks could win. That said, for less than a field goal, with all of these things slanting in Winnipeg's advantage, the schedule, the home field, the health, I got to roll with the Bombers. Yes, the defense looked abysmal in week 2, but I think over the bye, they've had a chance to correct those things. This unit has been good for years and years dating back. I'm thinking last performance was more of a one-off than a larger problem, though obviously they'll have to prove that trying to corral Justin Rankin, who has probably been the best player in the West Division through the early portion of this season. So I'm going to take the Blue Bombers, but no disrespect to the Elks. I do think they can win it. I just think the smarter money is with the blue and gold.
You've laid out some very eloquent reasons why the Bombers are a very good pick in this game. And it's true, Mike O'Shea's teams have been almost unbeatable at home and almost unbeatable off the bye, and they've got a twofer this week. But it would not be true to my own personality if after a 4-0 week, I didn't become overly cocky and make a rash decision. And I'm doing that right now, as many people know, I grew up in a household that rooted for the green and gold. I no longer have such biases because I'm a member of a media, but it has pained me for years that picking the Elks has just been an impossibility because of how bad they've been. I'm ready to get hurt again, Hodge. I'm ready to expose my heart because I love what this team is doing right now. And really, I love Justin Rankin. I think he's the best running back in the CFL, bar none. And I think the Blue Bombers, through their first two games, have struggled at times against the run. They let Dedrick Mills rack up almost 100 yards in the first half of their first game before getting things sorted away. Larry Roundtree had a breakout performance in that Hamilton victory, and I think Justin Rankin is going to be effective both on the ground and through the air in this game. I am picking the Edmonton Elks to win the contest.
Wow. Bold prediction. We'll see if it comes true. The Toronto Argonauts will visit the Saskatchewan Roughriders on Friday night, where the green and white are 4.5-point home favorites. And yes, this is sort of being billed as an Argonauts home game, but let's not insult anyone's intelligence. The Roughriders, for all intents and purposes, are the home team, okay? I know they're wearing white, but they're the home team. The Argonauts blasted the Ottawa Redblacks this past week as Chad Kelly had his second straight 400-yard game, while the Roughriders improved to 2-0 thanks to a dominant performance from Cian Schaefer-Baker, though they are awfully banged up with AJ Ouellette, Del Duncan Busby, James Vaughters, and Juju Hughes all unable to practice this week, and it sounds like Hughes is gone for the year. Can the double blue make it 2 wins in a row, or will the Riders remain perfect and improve to 3-0?
I'm going with another upset here, and it's not just because those new Rider uniforms are utterly underwhelming. It's because they are banged up, and I think they are primed for an emotional letdown. They opened the season in week 2 with the banner raising ceremony, a tough fought contest against the BC Lions. That was obviously an emotional moment for them, celebrating that Grey Cup championship game. Then they go to Calgary, a team that they had beef with after some offseason comments and who beat them twice in the regular season in 2025. They had unfinished business and they explode out in that game and then have to win it tight down the stretch in double overtime. That's another emotional moment. Now you're banged up coming into your third game, and I think they are prime for that letdown. Meanwhile, the Toronto Argonauts have proven that they can be explosive offensively when Chad Kelly is on his game. I don't think the turnover issues from the second half of last week will continue in this one, and I think their defense will be able to hold their own with some of the pieces that may or may not be missing from the Riders' offense. I think this will be a tight game. Don't get me wrong. I don't imagine that the Argos are going to run away with it, but I certainly like them to cover a 4.5-point spread, and I'm picking them to win as well.
You're taking the Argos, JC. Wow, you are playing with fire, my friend. We are going to have fun breaking these picks down once the games are done. For me, I'm rolling with the safe pick. I'm taking the Saskatchewan Roughriders to win, and I'm not super scared of a 4.5-point spread. The offense has been absolutely cooking in Saskatchewan, and they showed a little more balance in week 3 than they did in week 2 running the ball. But I mean, we've seen Sam Emilus have a jaw-dropping performance. We saw Cian Schaefer-Baker this last week have a jaw-dropping performance. Yeah, he was limited in practice, but I think Keyshawn Johnson is likely to play, and he feels due. I mean, this receiving core in Saskatchewan is, for my money, the best in the Canadian Football League. They have been unbelievably dynamic. And yeah, again, we've talked about it. Trevor Harris, he's limited athletically at his age, and he doesn't have the biggest arm in the league. But he's got elite weapons, and he knows where he's going with the ball pre-snap. It looks like 99% of the time. So his clock is so fast. It takes so much pressure off the pass pro. I'm loving that offense. And then defensively, they've been very good despite some key losses. Yes, they need to clean up some of their tackling a little bit. They gave up a lot of points in week number 2 against BC. but I'm not super scared of how this defense is going to hold up against Chad Kelly. For all he's worth, Chad Kelly has thrown for a ton of yardage, back-to-back 400-yard games. That's the first time an Argonauts quarterback has done that in over 2 decades. The issue is his gunslinging works as a double-edged sword. He's got 4 touchdowns last week, and then he throws 4 interceptions. Like, yeah, you can throw 4 picks against Ottawa and still win by 20 points. I'm sorry, you're not going into Regina and throwing 4 picks and winning. He's got to limit those turnovers, and he's done a good job of that at times in the past. He's also sometimes in bigger moments had those issues and faltered. So I'm putting my money with the safe pick here. I'm taking the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I do think that the Argonauts have an edge on special teams. I don't really believe in Alex Hale. I think he's actually a step down from Brett Lothar. But as long as the kicking game doesn't decide this one, I'm feeling very confident taking the green and white. I think the reigning Grey Cup champions improve to 3-0. The Calgary Stampeders will visit the BC Lions on Saturday afternoon, where the Lions are 2.5-point home favorites. This will be the first of 2 games at the Apple Bowl in Kelowna, where the Lions are playing due to their displacement from BC Place Stadium amid the World Cup. Both of these games are 0-2, but the stories are a little different as Calgary suffered close, respectable losses to Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, while the Lions are coming off a blowout loss to the Tiger Cats and are badly beat up at the receiver position. JC, you're going to be in this game live, which is exciting. Kelowna, Touchdown Pacific, all that good stuff. Who's going to 0-3?
Well, let's just clarify something. I will be at this game live. I will not be in this game live. As much as the Lions are banged up at receiver, things haven't gone quite that bad yet.
We're only one more injury away.
One more injury away from them pulling me out of the press box, and that would be a sorry sight to see. But they still have enough players to field it without reporters on the field. I'm thrilled for this one. I think it's going to be an awesome atmosphere in Kelowna. I think the fans out there are going to be jacked up for this event, and it's going to be really cool. And I think it's a critical game for the BC Lions to win, right? They had some tough circumstances to open the season, being displaced. You go into Saskatchewan in your first game when they're raising the banner. That's going to be a tough one to win. Then it's a short week to Hamilton. I had picked them to open the year 0-2, despite the fact that I thought this team would eventually win the Grey Cup and have the best record in the CFL. Now has to be the turning point. And I think there is a sense of that within the organization as well. But looking at this team, I don't know how you can pick them in good conscience. Yes, there is optimism that both Keon Hatcher and Justin McInnes will be in the lineup, but that is still very much up in the air. And even if they're not, the rest of that receiving core remains banged up, and there's not a lot of weapons or established ones for Nathan Rourke to throw to. But more importantly, the defense remains the biggest issue with this team. The secondary is flawed, and the pass rush has been absolutely non-existent. I think against a good Calgary offensive line and a mobile quarterback in Vernon Adams Jr., as well as a pretty powerful running game led by Dedrick Mills, they're going to have more problems on defense. And until they prove to me that they can stop a team, I can't in good conscience pick them. So the Calgary Stampeders, I believe, will win this football game in unfriendly confines in Kelowna, and they will be the ones who prevent an 0-3 start.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about some of Calgary's top Canadians being out of practice this week. Christian Canu, their right guard. Adrian Green, an excellent corner, hasn't practiced. Jalen Philpott missed practice on Tuesday due to illness. That said, I think you have to pick the Stampeders. And the Lions, I picked them to go to the Grey Cup and win it too. I also think Nathan Rourke is the best player in the league. So there's a lot to still like there. But I just think out of respect for the Stamps, I mean, this is a team, yeah, they're 0-2. That's ugly on paper. But it was a walk-off field goal against Winnipeg in week 1. And then this past week, I mean, they went to overtime against the Riders. They could basically coin flip, be 2-0. And yes, they're winless. Technically, these clubs have the same record. If, people will say the old adage, we are what your record is. Well, I think there's a little more nuance to it, especially early in the season, and context is everything. So the Stampeders, I think, are the better team. Folarin Orimolade could be back in the lineup. He has been a full participant in practice coming off that Achilles tear he had last year. The Stamps already got Jalen Hutchings back at defensive tackle. He's a game wrecker. You add Flo into the mix, and all of a sudden that defensive line is great. And I'd love that you touched on it, JC. That to me has been maybe the biggest surprise of the CFL season so far, is the BC Lions defensive line, a unit that has as much talent as any on paper, has had zilch, zip, nada to give in the pass rush. Matthew Betts, the reigning most outstanding defensive player, through 2 games, I've barely noticed him. And then you got guys like Jonah Tavai and Casey Sales, guys who've been real impact players in this league, not doing much of anything so far. So if the pass rush can get going, if Nathan Rourke can overcome throwing to potentially Keon Hatcher and Justin McInnes, but then a bunch of guys who were not in the starting lineup and in some cases weren't even on a roster to start the year, I can see a path to victory here for the Lions. But I got to roll with the Stampeders. They have been a much better team, despite the records being the same. Through 2 games so far, I like the Calgary Stampeders to get their first win of 2026 in Kelowna.
The Ottawa Redblacks will visit the Montreal Alouettes on Sunday night, where the Larks are 8.5-point home favorites. The Redblacks are off to an 0-2 start with losses to Edmonton and Toronto, with some questioning if Jake Maier should still remain the team's starting quarterback. They took care of that business by trading away Drew Brown earlier this week. Montreal is coming off an overtime loss to the Elks and will look to get back to their winning ways against the Redblacks. Who takes this one, Hodge?
I mean, do we have to do the full analysis? I mean, the Ottawa Redblacks have been miserable on offense and they've been mediocre on defense. The Alouettes have been, they've had some slow starts offensively, but I mean, they've got a tremendous amount of firepower on that side of the ball. Defensively, they had some hiccups in Edmonton, but again, they didn't have their best player in Tyrese Beverett on the field. As of this recording, we do not have any information about practices and availabilities, so we can't give any hard information regarding who will or won't play. Stay tuned to 3downnation.com through the end of the week and into the weekend for that information. But I have to pick the Montreal Alouettes here. And honestly, the Redblacks just lost by 20 points to the Toronto Argonauts at home. Why would I not think that the Alouettes can win this game by more than 8.5 points with this game in Montreal? So I am selling I didn't really have any stock in the Ottawa Redblacks through the first 2 games, but I'm selling whatever I have until they can show some resilience here, some explosiveness under Ryan Dinwiddie, turn some kind of leaf. Like I said on our show on Monday, they should be going to Drew Brown as their starter for week number 4. And evidently the Redblacks heard that and said, no, he should go and play for another team. So I am not a believer of the Ottawa Redblacks right now. It's still possible they can turn it around. This is the CFL. But right now, I have not seen the evidence that's going to happen. And if anything, I think you're getting a rested, angry hornet's nest of an Alouettes team that's going to say, hey, look, this is a chance to not just win a game, but step on the throat of a lesser opponent and get to 3-1, which is important because the Hamilton Tiger Cats have kept pace with them atop that East Division at 2-1. So I'm all in on the Larks on Sunday.
I'm not a religious man, Hodge, but if you'll allow me, I think we should say a little prayer for the Ottawa Redblacks. Just take a moment, bow our heads. Yeah, okay. You're in our thoughts, Ottawa. You truly are, because I don't think you have a shot in this football game. The Alouettes are a far superior team. They're going to be fired up and they're going to be at home. And right now, there's not a lot to like about what the Redblacks have going on. And we talked about it on the podcast. Jake Maier has not been good enough through 2 weeks of the season. And now you have no other options, right? And it's not just that you traded away Drew Brown, which I don't think was the correct decision to bench him to begin the season or to trade him away. but you've signed McLeod Bethel-Thompson to be your backup quarterback, and he's not going to be in town in time for this game. So you're essentially going to have Bryson Barnes, who's been on the reserve roster, as your backup quarterback, and a guy that they signed earlier this week as your third stringer. The quarterback depth for this Redblacks team is not good. And when you don't have a bona fide stud as your starting quarterback, which they don't have in Jake Mayer right now, I just don't have any confidence that he can maximize their offensive weapons. And there are a number of them. The Redblacks are going to continue to struggle to start the season, and I believe it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So I'm pounding the over on the Montreal Alouettes.
We thank you as always for joining us for our weekly picks. He's JC Abbott. I'm John Hodge. Enjoy the action in week number 4 in the Canadian Football League. We'll be back on Monday with Just a Dunk to break down all the action for you folks. And hey, it's the first 4-game, 4-day slate. I asked the question last episode pretty unanimously. I heard from over a dozen people. Nobody likes, among CFL fans anyway, likes the triple header. So it seems like everybody's happy. We got the games nice and spread out. We can give each one the attention it deserves. I'm excited. I know you're excited, JC. I'm sure our listeners, our viewers are excited as well. While you're excited, sign up for the 3downnation.com newsletter. It's free. You can cancel anytime. All the latest news, insight, and analysis in your inbox. We'll see you after week 4. Enjoy the games.